All right. So, welcome back again. I'm Pastor Trey Smith, and I'm here again with my precious friend, Miss Jamie. And she's going to be sharing with you again part two from our discussion that we had on yesterday. And again, make sure you begin to share the mess out of this everywhere and let everybody know what's going on. Matter of fact, right before I get into it, I'm going to start sharing and make sure that we get this information out there. Please make sure you share it with all your friends. Share, tag everybody you want to tag. Because again, we're going to make sure we give you some very important information. And of course, if you have not signed the petition is again, it's there. The PayPal is there if you guys want to be supportive concerning the particular cause. Make sure you share this in every group that you're a part of, that you're engaged all around the world. Simply because there are times when issues like this does happen, and people need to know that there is hope, and there are people that do actually deal with these type of issues and are able to actually successfully win. And that's the most important thing that we want to share. So make sure you guys start sharing the mess out of this. All right. And again, let me be very clear because I got an inbox this morning, and because of the work I do uh, for justice, and I'm concerned about righteousness, people will have their opinions of what I'm doing and how they think I should do it. Uh, I don't really take too kindly to that. And because I know why I'm doing it. What I'm doing is ensuring that righteousness is occurring, justice, people are being held accountable, those type of things. And even more importantly, in the midst of all this, I want to make sure that people have hope. And so when I met this wonderful family, they shared the story, and I'm not interested in sides. I have a thing in church world they call discernment. I don't just listen for sides and try to make the best opinion. I pray and I get direction from God, and then I go from there. So that's kind of how I roll. Mm-hmm. All right. So with that being said, guys, make sure you are sharing wherever you can. Let everybody know about this. And we're going to move in groups. So Miss Janie, if you would share it with us again. Specifically, I identified three issues in our conversation yesterday. Number one, kind of what happened initially with this idea of the custody piece that we talked about. Then also the well-being of Oakley. Mm-hmm. Right? And then lastly, how the system treated you. Okay. And so, but we're going to deal with two today. We're going to talk about the concern for Oakley, mm-hmm, and why we're concerned, and how that process unfolded. And then we're going to talk about the justice system. Because if you pay attention to anything on a federal level, on a court, on a state level, you'll always find some challenging things about systems. But unfortunately, you may not know what to do about them. But we're going to kind of give you some insights today. All right. Okay. So talk about Oakley. Okay. The concern for Oakley. Talk to me.
Okay. I'll try to explain to you how we got here.
Absolutely.
Oakley was being left.
And who's Oakley again?
Oakley's my granddaughter.
Granddaughter. Okay. So first and foremost, being a grandmother, that puts it in a whole nother game.
Right.
And so I want you to understand this. If you were a parent, number one, how would you respond?
Oh, right.
That's number one. So I want you to hear the context. Yeah. Go for it.
This is about, this is
safety.
My son, and this is his daughter, and it's my granddaughter. Mm-hmm. And so where she was being left on a regular basis to be watched during the day when the mother was at work, it turned out that they had a gentleman that lives in the woods in a shack. Mm-hmm. And he is a twice convicted sexual offender. So how it came to be is Oakley told us about him. Mm-hmm. And then when we would go there to pick her up and drop her off, we would see him.
Now, when you say twice convicted, now mm-hmm, talk to me about that, because I know some were talking about, they try to find him on the register. You couldn't find him on the register.
Well, that's right. And that's a whole other issue, because I'm going to bring that up right now, because this gentleman was on the public sex registry, mm-hmm, and he was supposed to be on there until 2029, and he failed to report a couple times, so he was actually convicted of that, and I believe he went back to jail at least one time for that. Mm-hmm. So he is now, in the last few months since this whole thing has blown up, is off the list. He is still on the state at the state level, but no one can find him on the public registry anymore. Nope. He's gone, and I filed the FOIA.
Mm-hmm. To find out why.
Okay.
Because now, what's a FOIA? They don't know what a FOIA is. Now, mind you, we're here to educate you. God bless you, JC. But tell me why. The FOIA is freedom of information.
Correct. And when you want to get information on public records, you have to fill out that report and ask for the information you want from the state
Absolutely.
level or city level or where it's from. So I filed a FOIA with the state, and they sent it back, and they rejected it.
They rejected your FOIA.
They did.
Why?
And I am in the process right now of trying to figure out why that is.
Interesting. Now watch this. Now, if you all followed any of the other videos we actually did, there was a gentleman by the name of Philip Reisner who was accused of doing over 300 FOIAs. And so what they ended up doing, because they realized he knew too much of the law, that he couldn't they couldn't actually deny him because he knew too much. What they would end up doing is then just not saying any information is available.
Right.
Or this camera doesn't work, or this, that, and the other. And so they found ways to kind of get around the Information Act. So that means if you guys ever see an issue going after Leslie Ursula, she's from Miami, if you ever want to get information like on something that happens with a court proceeding or some type of ruling, you have the right as a citizen to actually get that information. Freedom of Information Act. I told you, we're not just here talking about stuff. This is educational.
Right.
So make sure you put that out there. All right,
Yes.
keep going.
And so we were going out there on a regular basis to pick up and drop off Oakley. And that's how we came to learn that Oakley knows Larry. And so we reached out originally to the family, wanted to know the story on why is this man living in the woods. And we got no response. No one would tell us his last name or his history or anything. So then there came a point where Kevin, at one of the times, was incarcerated on PPO that was based on freedom of speech.
A Facebook post.
Yes, it was.
So,
it had to do
so
with Facebook.
he got a PPO because of Facebook posts.
Correct.
So that means I
Yes.
can write something and I can get a PPO. Somebody could come at me.
Yeah,
But it's illegal, right? Isn't that
Oh,
a
yeah.
violation of my constitutional right?
it absolutely
Of freedom
is.
of speech.
If you're not threatening anybody, yes, absolutely.
If
And I will tell you, even if somebody comes on Facebook and threatens you, if there's no intent, people get to say whatever they want. It's no different than me saying it to you at the coffee shop, in my living room, at the top, from the top of a mountain. Social media is the same thing. We have a right to
Our opinion.
our opinion and our thoughts in what we can say whatever we want.
This is in North
Facebook.
Korea, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's what I'm saying.
So while he was incarcerated, there was another gentleman that happens to live out in the woods out there, and
You got a lot of people in the woods.
we do in Port Huron. I'm finding that to be true, and that's kind of sad, and that's something the city might want to look at. But so we reached out to the family. Let's get to that. So we reached out to the family first, and we couldn't find any resolve there. So then we were forced to go on. That's right. You got to press one. Sorry. Then we reached out to all the places that are supposed to help in these situations.
Such as
CPS.
CPS.
Okay. And we tried to actually bring it in front of the judge too, but that was not allowed.
So you were looking to go through all the systemic ways that are available that we're told when we want to be a good citizen, we want to be law-abiding, we follow these processes. So you did your best to follow the process.
We really did. And that was after we were given the information, because what we did is when Kevin found out that this gentleman's history, he called me and said, well, actually he called me to find, so we could reach out and find out this man's history. So the detective actually found the information and gave us the history. And then I filed the FOIA for all the information on this gentleman, because now my granddaughter is friends with a man in the woods, and we have no idea who he is or why he's there. And my granddaughter's interacting with him. So we filed everything. And it was very scary.
It's traumatic.
It was like,
traumatic.
okay. So at that point, we offered the information to the family to see if it could be resolved that way.
Absolutely.
And that didn't work. So then we reached out to CPS. CPS did an investigation. They said that Oakley should have zero contact.
So CPS said that.
They did. I have the
So,
report. That
Child
absolutely
Protective
should.
Services.
Yes.
Now, see, you may not know this, but see, my wife was the lead supervisor for Child Protective Services in Georgia, and so the largest county in Fulton.
Wow.
And so she understands that when that happens, it's like that's the reason why they exist, so they can advise the legal system and how to operate and deal with children. So I'm sure that the moment the CPS made that designation, that the judge said, I'm for that. And
Right.
That's what happened, right?
No, and that's why we're here. CPS report, she actually issued a duty to warn. She said Oakley is to have absolutely zero contact with this man.
Because they did their investigation. They just didn't take your word for it.
Right.
They have to go, they have a process.
Right.
And so no matter what happens, again, like we don't like what all the systems do, but they have a process that they have to follow. They could be sued, they could be held accountable for corruption or whatever, but they followed their process like they do with their cases, and they found that there should be no contact.
Absolutely.
And the judge didn't want to hear that.
It's not even that he didn't want to hear it. He absolutely will not let that report be introduced, and he keeps stating from the bench that CPS found no issue and that she can be supervised around him, and he has repeatedly stated that from the bench. And when he is told that you have the reports, not only from CPS, Renewal Christian Services also said she should have zero contact with this gentleman.
Second opinion.
Yep, second. And then we even have, I believe, something from PCC.
PCC is?
Professional Counseling Center.
Okay, that's good. Because again, and the reason why I want to make sure that's out there is because again, everybody may not know these places, because if you have such a track record and documentation, there's no reason why you shouldn't be believed.
Right.
Thank Kathy.
And the thing is here's the thing, okay? So the judge is aware of the reports.
Okay.
The investigation was done, and it had a very easy resolve.
Okay.
And all that was being asked from Kevin was, please don't have my daughter around that man. Because what we were dealing with on the backside is Oakley was also talking to all of us about Larry. She told us everything. And she would ask to bring cookies out of the snack cupboard to Larry because it's her best friend. She will tell you about his kitties. She can tell you the boxes that they live in.
So after all these designations were done, she's still having great contact, very, very close. And also, thank you, Kathy Main, for your support, and thank you for everything you've done. I just wanted to highlight that. But so she's getting all this information because she's having this contact with him.
Right.
Okay. But even though it's already been established that he's okay.
Right. And then so now let's fast forward, and this has been going on for almost 2 years, trying to find some resolve to this situation, and going in front of the judge repeatedly and basically being not allowed to talk about it. And so then we fast forward, and now we have this gentleman. So that's how Justice Oakley came to be.
Now, when you say not allowed to talk about it, because you kind of hit that real quick, I want people to understand what it means. That that there was, you couldn't talk about it. Was it in court?
In court, Judge Tomlinson would keep saying we've already addressed that situation, and CPS found there was no situation, and everything's fine.
Now, what's important about that is the fact that we need to know you have a right to speak in court. You have a right to speak your piece, but you were denied those rights. The people representing you were denied those rights.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Thank you.
So fast forward, and that's how we got to Justice for Oakley. And so when we started Justice for Oakley, we put the information out there, because understand, this situation runs along a public bike trail. Okay. And so it's not, I think people need to be aware when they're being put at risk.
Okay.
Or if there's a harm that could possibly come to them. So Kevin and I both posted about the situation out there. And actually, I believe that there weren't even any names mentioned in the original post.
Okay.
And that there was just a gentleman that lives in the woods off the Avoca Bike Trail, and with this history, and you should just be aware of that. And so the next thing you know, this gentleman is issued a PPO ex parte against Kevin for talking about him on Facebook. And so now then we're in court, and then I posted about the situation, and he files for a PPO against me. And I have to go into court. Now I have to go into court and sit in a hearing where it could have just been denied because it was basically my freedom of speech rights that are protected. It was a frivolous PPO. And so I had to go into court, and I have to interact and exchange and listen to this person, mm-hmm. talk about my granddaughter and the situation. And then he files a PPO violation against my son for us continuing to express our freedom of speech.
You know, and the other thing is, too, there's a thin line between what I consider freedom of speech and awareness. Mm-hmm. If this person is considered a danger, even if you perceive them to be a danger, and then they've been determined to be a danger, because this is the difference. It's not like there was a investigation proven and it was then put out there. And so, and the thing I'm saying, and I want you all to understand as well, I know some of you say this isn't for social media, but I want to let you know that this is exactly why social media is here, because this is what was done in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and on, whenever there was an issue, so that the public would know. Because listen, evil will continue to operate until good people come together and do something. Sometimes you can't vote people out. Sometimes you got to hold them accountable and make things happen. And so you have to understand it very, very, very clearly, beloved, that sometimes it takes using unique means to get things done. And this is one of those means.
Right. And then even after all that happened and the CPS issued that, you have to understand that we were aware that the contact was still continuing. Mm-hmm. And CPS was called, I believe, actually another 5 times. And those were all rejected. And said that this case has been handled.
Now, why were they called this time? I mean, was there something? Was it
because Oakley was still talking about having contact, because her great grandfather actually would bring her out to the shack in the woods.
Again, somebody just said contact to Fox News. No, you contact Fox News because you're watching this and you know this is important. Tag them in this. Let folks know. Share the mess out of this video so that, listen, we can get to the bottom of this. For some of you saying, oh, this isn't true or this is amazingly true, then you need to take the next step and not just follow and read, but you need to make sure you push this and make it public. And so this is constantly happening. So again, you're following the system. You're not trying to rescue. You didn't call the Avengers. No. You didn't call Spider-Man. Didn't call none of that. No. You just literally tried to follow the system.
And literally, all Kevin continually asked was, please do not have contact with my daughter. She should have never known him, but it was too late for that. And it was strictly, please don't allow him around my daughter. That's all that was ever asked. And we are still, now we're almost 2 years into this, and now we're in court fighting frivolous PPOs in this judge's courtroom, and you can't even make sense of it when the result was so easy.
Now, you were. I assume you probably, the reason why you couldn't talk, you probably were just sitting there by yourself, no attorney, right?
Oh, no.
No, you had an attorney?
Oh, no. Kevin... No, he had an attorney.
I mean, did you get my point? I mean, I'm trying, because some people, they'll try to delegitimize what happened. They say, oh, you were just in there talking frivolous, and you spent close to $80,000 in resources.
Over $80,000.
And just trying to, so you invested and done everything. There are some of us out here that got issues, and you ain't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, and so you know you already going to be messed up as it relates to dealing with the system if you don't have any support. That's a reality. And so, but you did everything you possibly could.
Yes.
Okay.
And I promise you that these entities were involved in this, as far as renewal and PCC and stuff. Everybody was well aware that Oakley has contact. Still to this day, everything we have presented on Justice for Oakley, Larry's testimony, He says he has contact with Oakley. He says that she is brought out to a shack. He says that he is up at the house. We have seen her raking leaves with him. She talks about him at our house because that's what little kids do. They just tell you about what's going on in their life. So, and it was said at one point that Kevin tells her to say these things. I promise you, it could be no farther from the truth. Oakley talks about everything. So I don't know at what point. Kevin at one point even was told by an attorney that you have to let that go. And it's like,
how you can tell a father to let that go if there's a concern?
No. And now we've gone so far in this courtroom that he is sitting in there fighting to terminate a PPO. He actually is still fighting to terminate that PPO right now. And there have been things that have come up that this man that lives in the woods has done now that
to Oakley?
To Kevin.
Okay.
That's going to come out here shortly. I'm not going to share it yet.
Okay.
But we're still dealing with this issue. We are still in a court of law fighting just to stop a little girl being allowed contact to a gentleman she shouldn't be having contact with.
All right. Now also, and that's another reason why we have this petition out there, because if we can go and have 1,000 signatures and names of people that back and support this, because we've contacted a congressman and we've talked to, and so we're going to be dialoguing with him, and also we've talked to the NAACP. And so we are engaged right now with all the necessary folks who can engage, even also the Michigan Civil Rights. We're going to reconnect with them, and there are other things we can do again. So we talked about Oakley. Now talk, if you can, just briefly kind of about the system and how you've been treated, because there's a hearing on Thursday, right?
Yeah. We and that's another PPO that is coming from a family member.
Are you guys sharing? You should be sharing
on the maternal side, which was another Facebook conversation. And here's what I've learned. This is what I don't understand, is grown adults inject themselves in the conversation on social media.
Okay. So they went in it initially.
Yes, they asked to join the groups, and they inject themselves in conversations. So we all found ourselves in a conversation with a family member, and it was going back and forth because she was stating things that simply weren't true.
Okay.
And so when you say to this little girl's father or their family that she has zero contact, and you're just asked, and you're just said that simply is not true, so would you like to talk about that?
So you offered a chance to have a civil discussion
several times, and not just on social media. The olive branch has been extended over and over.
Okay.
And so the conversation, in somewhere in the conversation, that person wasn't happy. So with how the conversation went, or what was posted, or whatever. And it had nothing to do with threats or anything like that.
But it's your freedom of speech. That's
right. We were just exercising our freedom of speech as she was. As she was sitting there saying that it's not true and she has zero contact, and stating facts that he signed off his rights because he didn't want to pay child support and all this crazy stuff, right? Okay, so she was getting responses from the other side that says, hey, we will show you the truth in black and white. Not a he said, she said. We will just show you exactly what took place all along the way.
Keep sharing this everywhere.
So she went in and filed for a PPO, and this judge granted it ex parte again. Yep.
And now make that your bridge into the system.
Yes. And so this is what I can't believe that this can happen in America, really. That you can inject yourself into a conversation on social media, and if somebody doesn't like what was said, they can go into the court and someone will give them a PPO. And then you have to fight it. You either have to accept it.
Did they have to show just cause?
Nope. They just, actually what they did is all you have to do is you just turn in your side and not the responses or the whole threads or the whole post or anything. You just post
just the part
what
that
was
you see as an issue.
Right. Not everything that was said, and not the facts of the case or anything like that. And it was granted again. And it seems to be, and yeah, and then then there was a PPO violation filed, and now he's incarcerated again one more time for freedom of speech, exercising his freedom of speech on social media. And actually, it wasn't even his post that she was originally turned in to be granted this PPO. And in this, just with my son alone, he has been up against PPOs from 4 different members of the family so far. 4 or 5, maybe 5. And
now,
then when he was
he
physically
he threatened him?
No, nobody. No, these are simple. Okay. They're just being granted.
Just because it's Thursday. Or
right.
It's Tuesday.
Right. Or because they're friends. I really don't know. Well, yeah, I do know. I know exactly what's going on. But, so the system isn't being used in the way it's supposed to be being used. This shouldn't even be able to happen. And I do understand, because sometimes I do understand why people think it's a bad idea to have this out in the media. Okay, like when you're what would you say when you're not allowed a voice in the courtroom that you've been forced to go into, when you've been forced into the system and you're not allowed a voice. Well, we have a voice.
I hear that.
And we have a voice, and this is our voice.
This is our voice.
This is how Kevin ended up there. It's his daughter. He's trying to protect her, and he is not being allowed to do that. And he is also being punished for trying to protect his daughter.
So I think Thursday, let's talk about some tangible things that can happen. Number one, if you are ever in a situation like this, there are a few things you can do. Number one, if the system you believe is corrupt, specifically in the state of Michigan, if there's an issue that you have with any elected officials, you can actually file a formal complaint with the Attorney General of your state, okay? And when you do that, they will then open an investigation because they're obligated to do that. So that's a step that's necessary, and that's a step that's being taken. The next thing you can do, if you feel that they have abused you in any way, because if this is really an issue, you can actually file charges with the state police. And it's interesting that certain things were not done, because of course there weren't grounds, but there are certain lenient rules and legislative maneuvering that can be done to get PPOs and things of that nature. But then there's another thing that's coming up is Thursday, this hearing. Now, are you inviting your fans and your followers to be there?
I am.
Well, go on and tell them about it.
Yeah, no, it's at 9:15 in Judge Tomlinson's courtroom. It's a motion to terminate this PPO.
And you have a right, hear me, there's a thing that the NAACP used to call court watchers. You are allowed to come in the court, as long as you're not causing trouble. You can come, you can sit, hear me, we're not talking about riot, we ain't there.
No.
And you know me, normally I'll let you know when we're in a riot, but we ain't in a riot yet. But you can come and you can sit there and you can hear the facts for yourself. And you can gauge. You have a chance to come. If we get the 79 people walking right now to be there, you would get a chance to hear. We don't want you to chant. We don't want you to boo or yay or none of that. Just listen.
Yes.
And then make an intelligent decision on how you want to support, because this could be you. This could be you, and you need to know what you can do. So say it again. All right. So give them the time again, and they need to get there at 9:15.
9:15 is the hearing. It's in Judge Tomlinson's court,
St. Clair County
house in Port Huron, Michigan, St. Clair County courthouse.
You can be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody said, look, Allison said she'll be there on Thursday.
Everybody should be there. Everybody should see how this what's happening.
Because if this was fraudulent, we would keep this stuff secret. We wouldn't share this with everybody because we wouldn't want to be exposed if it was wrong. But we want you to be there and hear and listen. Okay, this is a very important piece. Say if you can't get off work, fine, send somebody that can.
Right.
And make sure you can get there. Now, anything else that you want people to be a part of? Because the petition is on there, the GoFundMe is there.
Right. No, please sign the petition for sure. And
PayPal is just not for us; it's for everybody.
It's for everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
all court costs.
It's for every. Listen, because the goal is this. If you run into an issue like this, now mind you, my office is open. If you ever have an issue and you want to figure out a way to make it happen, we'll bring you in here. We'll help you the same way. And now there's a wonderful group an organization that's starting that actually wants to help people going through these situations and let them know they're not alone. Again, that's 9:15. All right. So, a matter of fact, if you can just comment that, just make sure you comment that in the, and I want you guys to keep that, please, and make sure you know what's going on. 9:15. Put the address, the time, the date, so you guys know to be there, so you can learn. Hear me. This is the reason why people get away with stuff is because there's nobody to stop them. Right. But if you all hear and you hear stuff that's crazy, you have the right to ask questions, right, and say, wait a minute, what if this was my child? What if this was my situation? Wait a minute, you need to be there and make sure, Thursday, 9:15, yep. Judge Tomlinson's, right?
Yep, Judge Tomlinson's.
They got enough seats for you.
They do.
You can definitely make sure you guys are there. And listen, and you can go to the petition. If you have not signed, make sure you sign. I think we were over 100 plus signatures. Yep. We need to get 800 more. So listen, I know that we hit over close to 8,000 views on the other video. We need you all to sign. Yes. We need you to sign so we can have the support of the community. And we're going to keep, yep, there it is. It's posted right there. We want to make sure you guys are educated. Please make sure you share it with anybody who wants to know so they can be there. Now, any closing remarks, thoughts, because you did amazing. You did a really, really great job. And you also educated people because there are people in different countries. I don't know if your system works like this, but there are people in different states. And I'm sure it works like this. If you're in Michigan, I know it works like this. And you have just been empowered. If somebody comes against you and you think the system is wrong, don't just complain and cry. But file a formal complaint with your local representative. Mm-hmm. Send it to the Attorney General. And they are obligated by law to investigate and figure it out.
And I want to make one more point. We never intended to be here. This has not been easy. But in the difference when you're in family court and it involves children, there's a fear that's instilled in the families that are forced to be in this family court system right now. And it shouldn't be like that. You are afraid to lose your children if you speak out and you try to tell the truth and try to do what's best for your children. And you are silenced with fear of losing your children, and that should not be happening, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, there's a petition right at the in the beginning in the title. And also, because you talked about that fear, tomorrow, I want you to mark down tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Yeah. We're going live again. Yeah. Listen, we're going to get live we're going to have three other women, yes, that have stories.
And one gentleman.
And two women.
2 men and one gentleman.
Okay, and we have people that are going to share their story as well.
Right.
Hear me. You're going to hear other stories so that you know that, number one, we're not going to be silent.
Right.
Number two, we are going to make sure that people get heard. And also, later in the day, we're actually going to be talking to the NAACP, figuring out what we can do, because just trust me, NAACP ain't just for black folk. It's for any folk who feel oppressed. And besides, she's Italian, so that's close enough to being black. and so that's important. And so I want you, 269 have already signed. Oh, come on, we need you to get another 703. Come on, we can do it today. Yeah. But we need that sign. And tomorrow at 9 o'clock, please make sure you share it, put it in the groups, let them know at 9 o'clock. We're going to be going live again. And you're going to get a chance to get educated, hear the stories, and we're going to make sure that we send information that will help you in whatever you're dealing with. No, thank you, Sarah. And we appreciate you. Any closing remarks?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Stage manager, did we get everything? All right, so the stage manager said we did everything. ACLU, yes, that's good. But also there are multiple independent grassroots agencies that don't have their hand in the cookie jar.
Right.
Because some of these folks are supported.
And that always seems to be a problem here right now. Is it's like everyone you're forced to go to get help with what's happening here is part of the system.
Absolutely.
And there's nowhere to go.
And also, I want you guys to know. Listen, Jessica said, "Good job, Mama." So listen. They aren't even members of our church, but I believe they're members of the body, and it's my job to make sure that justice comes through. If you are a pastor out there, you got people that are being oppressed, it is your God-given right and responsibility to make sure you bring justice. And if nothing else, give them a platform to get them the help and the hope they need. And that's what we're trying to do. Listen, any issues you have, just pray about it. Let me know what the Lord says. I'm always available on February 30th and 31st. That's when you can get with me. Anytime, I'll be available. Or March 32nd, you can get with me on those days. If you got any problems with me, let me know. But other than that, I want you guys to be blessed, be encouraged. And Kevin is doing okay, right?
He's doing okay.
Yep, and Kevin is doing okay. And so 9 o'clock tomorrow, make sure you guys meet us right back here. Yep. Same bat time, same bat channel. Be blessed, be encouraged, and share this a million times.